Welcome back to the What Are You Made Of podcast with your boy, Mike C-Roc. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for being a part of the What Are You Made Of movement and the C-Roc brand. I really appreciate you. And I want to always start off the show with gratitude and let you know that I appreciate that. And so today, guys, our guest, Jordan Mendoza, he has a podcast called Blaze Your Own Trail. And he's also into digital marketing and sales training. So I want to get into what he's made of here. But before we do that, guys, I just want to send some love to Grant Cardone, the Cardone family, 10X team. I am a Cardone licensee, proud and loud. And I just want to give it a shout out for everything they've done for me, my team, and continue to do for us. And if you guys ever need any sales training, any business training, you want to get your financial, things in check, get back to your boy C-Roc, hit me up. I'll take care of you, show you the way, show you what I've done to get through things like COVID, setbacks, and turning setbacks into rocket fuel, which is Waymo rule number one. What are you made of? Rule number one, turn all setbacks, letdowns, negativity into a rocket fuel for your future. Not just fuel, but rocket fuel to get you into orbit. And so I want to start off the show by that. But Jordan, welcome to the What Are You Made Of podcast, man. What are you made of?
Hey, first off, I appreciate you having me on the show. Anytime I can share my story and journey, it's an honor. So thank you so much for that. So, today I'm a husband. I'm a father of five, 3 boys, 2 girls. The youngest one is about to turn 2 months old, and my oldest is 15. So that keeps us busy, my friend. But whenever I'm on a show like this, I love to really give origin story. I love to give people my background because there's been people in my life that have really influenced me in such a major way that it's given me a unique perspective. And so let's rewind back to 1957. So my grandmother was raped, unfortunately, in 1957. January of 1958, my mom was born with 1 lung. So this is a woman who, from the start of her life, was battling. The doctor said, you probably won't live to be 18. And because you only have 1 lung, it's going to be very hard for you to produce and have children. And my mom was one of those people that she was just a fighter. She's like, okay, thank you for that, but I'm just going to live my life. And so, she went through her adolescent years and high school years without having to use oxygen, which was crazy because later in her life, she depended on it. She had her first child, wasn't supposed to have any, at 20 years old. And then I was born a year and a half later when she was 21. She ends up having 5 boys and lived to be 54 years old. And when I tell you she was the most positive person in my life, she had empathy, she had humor, she was big into sports, she got us all involved. And even though we didn't have a lot of money, we were very poor, food stamps, Section 8, all of that. We had a lot of love, and she showed us what love was. And so I really attribute a lot of my success in the way that I am, the kindness and empathy that I project out into the world is really perspective from knowing that I shouldn't even be here. She shouldn't even be here, and that gives you a very unique perspective. And I love to share 3 pivotal moments in my life. And these 3 pivotal moments, most people hear them and individually they say, wow, that's a lot for anybody to go through. And I look at them and I say, I haven't even been through adversity yet because of what my mom went through. So I'm going to share these if that's okay with you, Mike, for your audience.
Yeah, dude, fire away, man. By the way, it doesn't matter where you come from. Well, it matters, but it doesn't. Love is the way, dude. When you are surrounded by love and affection and encouragement, that's what it's all about, man. Because
100%.
There's a lot of people that didn't come from Section 8, that didn't have food stamps and had a lot of money. And their parents didn't provide them with the encouragement, love, and also challenges.
Yes.
Because challenges are important to development. I think we all need problems. We all need problems to solve. And if we don't have purpose. So great point with that. But yeah, absolutely. Share away, man.
All right, perfect. Yeah. And so the first pivotal moment in my life came in 4th grade. And I don't know why, Mike, to this day, why we had a 4th grade picnic at the last day. I can understand 5th grade, you're going to middle school, but 4th grade, maybe they just want to celebrate us. So we're at Pier Park in North Portland, Oregon. I'm up to bat, right? We're playing baseball. We're doing kickball, tetherball back when that existed. And I'm up to bat. So I'm swinging this bat. I do one of those spin things like in the movies, and the bat flies back and lands under a tree. I walk up to the tree. I stand up. There's a beehive on top of my head. So I am in fourth grade getting stung by bees. I'm trying to run away. Kids are literally, Mike, running away from me. Teachers are running away. Finally, a couple of the good ones decided to grab these big ice coolers and threw them on top of me and started picking bees off of me. So in fourth grade, I got stung by 53 bees in fourth grade. So that was first pivotal moment. So listen, if I was allergic, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I wouldn't be around. So let's fast forward to seventh grade. We're on about move number 14. From birth to 14, we moved 14 times. And I'm sure this had to do with money. I didn't really have those conversations with my mom about any of that stuff, but we just moved from neighborhood to neighborhood. And I was moving to a new neighborhood. I did not want to leave my friends. I'd been there from kindergarten to sixth grade. I wanted to go to seventh grade at this school. So I begged my mom to let me take 2 public buses from one hood to, a couple hoods away. And every time on this route, I would stop at a 7-Eleven convenience store. I would put my quarter into Mortal Kombat 2, and I'd be playing Mortal Kombat while I waited for the bus. I knew the lady Rose at the store. This was literally my routine. And on one day, I remember it like yesterday, it was the fall. I had walked into the store. I went to Mortal Kombat 2. I'm playing the game. And I hear a man's voice. I heard the chimes of the store. You know how you can hear the bells when you walk into 7-Eleven? I heard that. And I heard a man's voice say, "Hey, Daniel." Now, I'm not Daniel, so I didn't turn around. Within 30 seconds, my body was lifted. I was shoved against the Terminator 2 pinball machine that had the gun as the trigger.
Yeah,
and I'm being assaulted and punched by this male police officer. And he is pulling my hands around. I had bruised ribs, bruised wrists. He handcuffs me. He takes me out to the car and says, "You're under arrest. We know that you're a Hispanic runaway that was involved in some break-ins." And I said, "Sir, my name is not Daniel. It's Jordan. Can you please look? My homework is in my pocket." One of the only days I think I did my homework in seventh grade. But literally, he reaches in. He pulls out the homework. It says Jordan Mendoza on it. And when I tell you, brother, his face looked like he saw a ghost. He knew he screwed up. And so, that was really pivotal moment number 2 for me. I think about, like, what if I would have tried to fight back? Would I still, would I still be here? What if that cop would have taken his aggression to the next level? Would he have pulled a weapon? So I think about all those things. And even at that age, I didn't want this big court litigation. I wanted them to lose their jobs because they did something wrong. But even I had the self-awareness to know that they weren't bad cops. They were bad people that just happened to be cops. And I was able to see at that young age through that lens, and I knew the difference between good and bad, because believe me, even to today, there are plenty of police officers I know that are great people, right? There's no bad police officers or doctors. It's just people that become bad,
and I wouldn't even call them bad. I would call them broken.
Yeah, 100%.
I think there's a lot of broken people.
Yeah, anger is a secondhand emotion. We don't just get angry for no reason. It's because we've experienced some physical, emotional, or psychological pain, right? That's where the anger actually comes from. And so that was pivotal moment number 2. The next one came at 19. I'd finished high school. I'd done all these sales jobs. I knew I didn't want to go to school. I had that self-awareness that, like, I didn't enjoy it. I wanted to sell. I wanted to hustle, wanted to make money. And so I got a job with a sales organization. We're in California. We're so pumped. We're going to open an office in New Jersey, and we're on this cross-country drive. Well, we get to Wyoming. And I don't know if you've ever been there, brother, but it is very desolate on I-80. This stretch of highway has the most fatalities every year still to this day. And this was back in 2000. So we're in this caravan of cars. I'm in a Chevy King Cab pickup truck. I had fallen asleep. Well, while I was asleep, the driver falls asleep at the wheel. He wakes up and overcorrects himself. We are sliding, brother, at 70 miles an hour. The truck rolls and flips several times and finally lands. The driver, my friend Jeremy, was ejected 25 yards away. I get out. I didn't know I was injured. We're all walking around looking for him, and I reached on my right leg, and my fist sunk in. It was a cut 12 inches long, a fist deep. I had another cut on my left leg that was 8 inches long, and I was rushed to the hospital. My buddy was life flighted, and I ended up having 52 staples, laser surgery. We really shouldn't have lived, and our only saving grace was that off-duty EMTs from a conference happened to be driving by and saw the wreckage. I mean, so, like, I think about these moments and these things, and what I've really learned is that adversity gives us strength. It heightens our EQ. It gives us the ability to see things through a lens that people some people will never see through. And so that's giving me really a heightened perspective. And to this day, I still believe that I haven't even faced adversity yet, knowing what my mom went through, and that really, brother, gives me this unique, really experience to look at life through a positive lens. And I don't let things bother me. Now, do things bother me? 100%, but I don't dwell in them because I think about the things that I've been through and say, that's nothing.
Right, man. And let me tell you something. I went into a rollover accident with the family in 2014, and we were probably only going 45 miles an hour. I got T-boned and rolled over 3 times. And that at 45 was one of the most violent things I've ever been through, if not the most violent. And I can't even imagine it's 70 miles an hour, man. But it's we walked away too, thank God. And it's something scary, man. I mean, I was traumatized by it for years. And I've overcome it now. But when you go through something like that, one of the things that worked for me was to lean into it. And what I mean by that is I was scared to fly. I was scared to drive for a period of time. But then I just forced myself, right? You just force yourself. And when I did was flying, I just started traveling. I just forced myself on planes. Even if it took a Bloody Mary to get started, before I got on the plane.
Yeah.
But it just forced myself. And then before you know it, I started to love it. And now I fly all over the place. I love it. But anytime you have that feeling, fear or scared, don't injure yourself, but lean into it. And it's like one of the other things I'll relate this to is I get a cramp sometimes in my calf, and a lot of people just freeze and they just like deal with that pain. And if you just push into it, it goes away like that. And so
100%.
that's a little tip for you guys. But anyway, what are you into now, Jordan? What kind of things are you into? I mean, I mentioned the podcast. Do you want to talk about the podcast?
Yeah. No, I'd love to kind of give you that, paint the picture of the journey. So I've been in sales ever since I was 14. I started going door to door, trying to get people to sign up for the newspaper. There's gonna be some people listening that have never read one before, right? And that's what I was trying to sell to people at 14. And when I tell you, brother, door to door, like face to face, guerrilla marketing is the best way to build up your people skills. Because on that first day, when I heard 100 people tell me no, I was on the curb. My head was between my legs. I wanted to give up so bad, but I'm so glad I went back for day 2. I'm so glad that I didn't, because I learned a big lesson that day. And it was from the distributor where he said, Jordan, you're not going to understand this today, but hopefully in your sales career, you'll get this. The sale doesn't start until the customer says no. And I said, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, Jim. Take me home. I want to go. But years later, as I continued to do sales, I was a sales trainer for this company, and we did transactional business-to-business sales. I had a kid on my team. He went out. He came back with that same smug look on his face that I had at 14. And I looked right in his eyes and I said, the sale doesn't start until the customer says no, right? Because I think as humans, we're so used to saying no. Like we go into a department store, people are like, hey, can I help you? Like, no, and this is ingrained from childhood. When you're a kid, it's like, no, don't touch the stove. No, you can't have dessert. No, you can't go out later. So I think we're wired as humans. That's our natural inclination
Reaction.
To say no to people.
Reaction.
Yeah, exactly. So that was a big lesson I learned. And so fast forward later, I get into property management by chance. Right. I'm living in an apartment community in Bethesda, Maryland. I know you're up in Maryland, and I'm a resident. I'm literally just living there, but I've got a big personality. I'm highly extroverted. So I'd always come and talk to the team when I would get my packages on the weekend. And they said, man, you've got so much energy. Have you ever thought about leasing apartments? I was like, no, I haven't. Do you offer benefits? Because we had our youngest was 6 months at the time. And so I told my wife, I was like, I got an interview and they offer benefits. She's like, amazing. I was like, I'll do this job until I can find a real job, And so 6 months later, I get promoted to an assistant manager. This is no experience in the field. 9 months later, I get promoted to a property manager. I'm managing multi-millions of dollars in real estate. And then I manage multiple properties and spend 5 years doing that. And then I get an opportunity to go into training and development. And this is now I've spent the last 8 years in that department. And that, my friend, has really increased so much in me as a human, because now I get to teach a 6-month leadership program every year that takes people through personality type, strengths-based leadership, emotional intelligence. And that enabled me to really have a voice, right? A voice that I didn't really feel like I had before, because I didn't have this college degree. I wasn't this corporate guy. I just learned from the streets. I learned this knowledge by hustling and selling to people. And now I'm in this position where I get to impact people and change their lives over the course of 6 months. So that really inspired me to start a podcast. And I really wanted to learn from people that were successful and find out, what did they crawl through? What did they fall? How many times did they fall? And that's the magic when you think about success. It's not the success itself. It's about the journey and the process that people went through to get there.
Yeah, you mentioned something about street smarts, right? Street smarts is what you need to start with. I believe street smarts is where the action is. It's where the hustle comes from.
100%.
Right? There's a lot of people that are book smart that don't take action, don't have any success. So I believe that you have to start with street smart. But at some point you hit a ceiling, right?
That's right.
The reason that you have to do the training and development is because at some point you need knowledge. Because you start as a street smart person, you're taking action, you're hustling. It's not, insecurities start to pop in. And insecurities are the result of lack of knowledge. So that at some point you need to become book smart. For me, it had happened, and I'm a little, irritated with myself, but like when I was around 40 years old, I realized, wait a minute, I can't get any further than I am now without knowledge. And so I became just absolutely obsessed, a sponge with knowledge, learning, books, podcasts, mentors. And you know what, man, it's a great thing to have the ability to have knowledge, but being able to take action as well. And so talk about that for a second, about the fact of starting with street smarts and how important it is to follow that up with the knowledge.
Yeah, no, I mean, I relate to that 1,000%. Here I am, I'm going to turn 40 in February, and I really didn't start reading books seriously until about 2 years ago. But when I tell you, brother, there was a massive shift because, for one, it started validating all of the knowledge I already had, right? So I started reading these things and saying, that's what I do, or I've done that, right? And then it actually gave me that little confidence I needed to start putting myself out there. And so 15 months ago, I started a journey on LinkedIn. I had the platform forever. Everybody uses it for a resume tool, right? And then I noticed that it shifted and people are starting to create content at scale. And so one guy, a really big mentor of mine, he encouraged me. He said, hey, you got all this sales experience, all this, you teach this, you teach that. Why don't you start showing people that you do that? And so he really inspired me to start creating. And from April to December, I went from 7 to 20,000 followers on the platform. I was like, where did all these people come from? What's going on here? And then from there, I looked the other day, I'm almost at 60,000 followers on LinkedIn in 15 months, and there's something big that happens when you start speaking your truth. There's something really big that happens when you start to take action, because even the smallest amount of action creates momentum. And when that momentum starts going, that creates the consistency that you need to start getting the results that you desire.
Yeah, man, the snowball effect I talk about all the time. Yeah, so on LinkedIn, let's talk about that, because a lot of people don't get on LinkedIn or have LinkedIn accounts, but they're not active or engaged in it. And, how did you go from, whatever, hundreds to thousands? And also, is it something that you have to constantly stay engaged with daily, or what approach do you take with that?
Yeah. So, and it's interesting because my whole consulting business started from me putting myself out there and creating content. And I just kept getting these inbound inquiries. They're like, hey, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? And I remember the funniest thing, Mike, it took my wife overhearing me a conversation telling somebody no to say, did that person just ask to pay you money and you told them no? Are you stupid? Like, what are you thinking? And I was like, you're right. Like, they want help. I'm going to advise them. And if they get results, boom, the business is born, right? Like, that's the whole point of what can you do that's going to bring someone from here to here? And of course, I've been doing training and teaching. So naturally I have that ability. So I really studied the platform hard, and I tried to figure out, what is it that makes a good profile, for one, right? Because your profile has to stand out, because the more views you get, the more visibility, the more engagement, the more following that you get. So I really built a framework, and the framework starts with the foundation. Just like when you're building a house, you have to start with the foundation. You don't put the windows in and all the everything in first. You do that when it's ready. And so I teach people how to optimize their profile first, because your profile needs to be optimized. It should be positioned as a sales page, not as a resume. And that's where a lot of people are making mistakes. From there, it's content. What are your skill sets? Are you better on camera? Are you a better writer? You got to get self-aware about those things, but you have to start showing up and creating. From there, you've got to engage. Are you engaging with your audience? Because as you know, being on social media, you could post all day long, but if you don't actually go in and thank people that have said something nice and took the time out of their day, what happens to your audience? They start to disappear. Right. So from there, now we take that to the next step. So if you're a business, now it's building these contextual relationships and taking them from the online, offline on Zoom calls, and then really building and cultivating relationships. So most people's biggest mistakes that I see is they try to go to dessert before you've even had an appetizer, meaning they connect with you and they try to literally pitch you immediately. And to me, that's just a big mistake because we all like to buy, but none of us like to be sold.
And that goes for prospecting too, making cold calls, regular calls, in-person visits, what have you. People approach it the wrong way. So they're expecting to try to close a deal, right?
100%.
On the first call. And then they get rejected and they're like, I hate rejection. And, you know, the thing is if they would approach it the right way, understanding that, hey, number one goal of prospecting is to get out of obscurity, let people know what you do, and then start to build a relationship. And that
100%.
relationship is a two-way street. So if somebody is engaging with you, you need to engage back, or the cycle, so to speak, which you have to have a loop to have a cycle.
Yep.
Is left open, and then you can't accomplish anything. So all success stems from completed cycles. And so people just don't realize that. They don't take the time to do that, but then they will complain about the rejection and how they don't like to handle rejection when they're just approaching it wrong.
Yeah. And then it's also, you know, people are like, oh man, you're so lucky. How'd you get all? I'm like, because I put in the work. You know what I'm saying? Like I actually was putting the work, but my content is positioned to be of value, right? If you're not taking that approach of value first, if you're trying to get the sales and these transactional sales, you're never going to build anything sustainable. Right? Because sales is a transaction, but to me, it's built off of a relationship. And when you can have that concept down that you really want to try to serve and be helpful to people, then everything changes.
Yeah. My approach to social media in general, first of all, social media allows you to reach obviously way more people than you could ever do in person. Right.
100%.
And so the opportunity that's there, even though you have to pay in some cases because Facebook and Instagram want money now, of course it's a business. But the opportunity that you have is unlike anything ever before. And if you're not using it, you're missing out on the opportunity, and people are just going to run by you. They're going to run by you like that. It's like, ooh. So my thing is when I'm approaching social media is I want people, when they do end up running into me in person, or I get the opportunity to meet people that follow me, is to have them feel like, one, I've validated their same thing you're talking about, gave them validation to be animals. One. The other thing is to feel like they already know who I am. They already know me. And that's a thing that somebody said to me the other day, like, yeah, I feel like I already know you. I've never met you before. I feel like I already know you. And that's basically validation for me that I'm on the right track. And so, you know, when people are going on social media, think about that as your approach, that you need to make sure that you're doing something to be vulnerable, be real, transparent. And you will find that when people like you and can relate to you and understand that you're doing that, and they'll feel like they get a genuineness from you, they'll want to do business with you. They'll want to engage with you further, right?
100%. Yeah. That know, like, and trust factor, when you have that, everything else is easy. Business becomes easy and business becomes fun because, like you said, they feel like they're talking with somebody that they've known forever.
Right. Now, would you give some advice on people that, you know, they think, see, here's the thing I look at. Okay. So a lot of people think they're doing a lot on social media, but they're not even doing 1/10 of what they should be doing to have an effect. It's a drop in the bucket, right? With all the stuff that's going on out there, all the bad things that are going on, all the good things that are going on too, but it's just a drop in the bucket when you put a post, you know, once a week, even once a day is not enough. What do you say to people about, you know, helping them really understand the frame of reference of how much they should be putting out and where they really are?
Yeah, you know, I think a lot of it, Mike, it does come down to strategy. Like, what are your goals, right? I think I always, when I'm talking to clients, it's what are the goals here? Do you want to build a brand? Are you looking to generate more leads? You know, are you trying to, you know, promote your book? Like, what is the intention, right? Because if you have a goal and a strategy, then yeah, you're absolutely right that you've got it. You can't just post once a week, right? Like posting once a week, you might as well not post at all, right? So you've got to be, for one, it's about consistency. If you're showing up, like if you're doing a series, right? If you're doing a series like on sales tips, do it once a day for an entire week, right? Because at the end of it, especially if you're thinking about this strategically, it's say, hey, I hope you like my 5 sales tips. I'm doing a 6-week program that's right. And then there's a strategy behind the content that you're putting out. Some people use it for like more vlogging where it's kind of just updates. Hey, had 3 meetings a day, right? They're giving them context of the day-to-day operations of their business. So I think the important thing is to have some type of strategy, but you're 100% right. It's about consistency. How many times are you showing up? And when you think about Facebook and Instagram, they're so oversaturated. That's why you said it's a pay to play now. Like you've got to invest in ads if you want to get the visibility that truthfully, there's some content you see and it's like, man, they deserve more visibility, right? But now it's like, okay, are you willing to invest to get those extra eyes on your content?
Yeah, and Jared Glant, and who's the president of Cardone, and Grant told me, both of them said this. Everything they do, as much as you see of them pushing stuff out there, they act every day like nobody's ever seen anything they've ever done. And so I've taken on that myself, and I still don't feel like I do enough. But I try to act like, you know what, nobody sees this anyway. And I don't overanalyze my stuff. I don't look at my videos over and over again. If I do a video, I do a picture, I just want to get it out because nobody's seeing it anyway. If it's crappy, I don't care. Just put it out. And the good stuff, great, put it out. Bad stuff, put it out anyway because it's getting attention. And that's the thing, that the approach that most people don't take because they're worried about what people think. They're worried about making it perfect, and then they miss out on the action. And at the end of the day, when you act like that, you're not going to accomplish anything, bottom line. So in your world, do you, how important is it for quality to be putting quality out rather than just quantity on social media?
That's a great question. And I get this question a lot. I think when you're starting out, it's about creating momentum. So it's about, I remember thinking about my first LinkedIn video 15 months ago. It had 5 views. They were all me, because I kept going back to see who was checking it out. And it was terrible. I look back and like the captions I used were off, but that's part of the journey. That's part of the growth that you get to see over time. So I think when you're first starting, it's about showing up because that's the hardest thing to do sometimes. It's showing up on the days that you don't want to do it. And one thing I would challenge people to do is
being committed, right?
Definitely be committed. Commitment. So like challenges are cool. I did a 30 videos in 30-day challenge. That'll test you. That'll test you, right? Because I'm one of those people that I actually don't like to plan content. I wake up and I'm like, I'm going to talk about this subject today. It's kind of on the fly. But that at the end of that 30 days, when I tell you my video editing skills are better, the way that I looked at the camera was better, all these things elevated. Why? Because I was committed and I was consistent. And when you have those two things together, man, there's beautiful things that can happen on the other end.
Now, I think that depending on what people are looking at, if they're looking at stories or if they're looking at a Facebook post or something, I think, to me, I pay more attention to people that are just instantaneously putting up a video real quick, a selfie video. I think that it's more genuine. I think it's, less polished means it's more real. And I pay attention to that more. Now, if somebody's going to YouTube, for example, a lot of times you don't want that to be more polished, or from some marketing piece, you want that to be more polished. So I think it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. But at the end of the day, man, like I don't think I'm ever going to stop. I do What is C-Roc Thinking every single day on Facebook and Instagram stories. What is C-Roc Thinking? And it's just a little thing. And I'm doing it for myself. I don't even care if anybody sees it at this point. I just do it for myself to show that I can be committed to something daily. And then I do it for my team of 40 employees at the mortgage company they work for, that they can see that, hey, he's talking this talk. Is he really walking the walk?
100%.
And so then by the byproduct is that people see it. Now, when you're also on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, if people lose context to this, if only 50 people are seeing your stuff, if you see that your views are on stories, 50 people, right? How often are you actually in a room being able to speak to 50 people?
Yes. Love that.
Right? Now, you'll see other people that have thousands, hundreds of thousands, right? And you know what? Good for them. But you can't compare yourself to them, because how often, again, are you in a room speaking to 50 to 100 people? Now, as you do it, like you said, you'll see it grow, but do not get discouraged just because you have 5 people, 10 people seeing it. Because again, that's something that, if I had the opportunity, we talk in front of a lot of real estate agents before COVID, and we'd go in person and we'd be in front of a lot of them. And, if you're impacting one person and one person has a possibility of you helping them and them exchanging money for you helping them, one person, the intrinsic value of that is far beyond anything you can imagine. So if you get the chance to have 10, 50 people listening to you or paying attention to you, whether it's good or not, even if they look at a video, Jordan, say, that thing sucks. I can't believe C-Roc just did that video like that. They're talking about me. They're thinking about
100%.
me. And when they go to bed, they may dream about me. That's now, again, I'm not trying to be egotistical there, but that's the idea of promotion. Promote.
What you're being top of mind. Like you think about any brand, you ask a brand, like, is visibility a big thing? Of course it is. Like, right? If you're putting out content that the goal is directed at helping impact people in a positive way, of course, like, I want as many eyeballs to see that as I can. But yeah, you can't really get caught up, especially when you're starting out. I remember when I was like, if I ever had 10,000 followers, like that'd be amazing. Like that would be so amazing that 10,000 people cared about anything that I had to say, and as the numbers grown, it just kept blowing my mind thinking about fitting all of these people into stadiums and how big that really look when you put that into perspective. So you're 100% right. Like, even if it's just one, that's 365 people a year. You multiply that and it just keeps going on and on and on.
Right. Well, how can my audience engage with you and follow you and all that, man? Lay it out.
Yeah. So they can find me on LinkedIn. I have maxed out on connections. LinkedIn only gives you 30,000 first level. And once that happens, you either have to be removed by somebody or you have to remove someone to let people in. But you can follow me on LinkedIn, and my messaging is open, so anyone can send me a message. I'm on Instagram at Jordan J. Mendoza, TikTok at Blaze Your Own Trail, YouTube Blaze Your Own Trail podcast. So I'm all over social, just trying to get my message out there and share that message of positivity and share other people's journeys with the world. Because, at the end of the day, I think the best learning happens through stories of adversity. When somebody has gone through something and has come out the other side, there's so much that we can learn through that. And it literally changes our perspective on our own life.
Anything you want to plug besides your social accounts?
Yeah. Listen, I would just say, listen to the podcast. I've had the pleasure of interviewing. I'm almost at 70 interviews. I just launched on January 1st, and I've had the pleasure of just meeting with and really learning. I think I look at it as 68 hours of learn. I went through the podcast MBA program, and I've gotten to learn this information that I get to apply to my life, and I get to help enrich other people's lives. So if anyone would listen to the show, you can find it on all the podcast platforms. I'd be honored. And then, reach out anytime. I love connecting with people. I love helping people grow in any aspect that I can.
All right, guys, go find Jordan on social media. Engage with him. Great dude, genuine, my kind of guy. I really appreciate you coming on the show, Jordan. Thank you so much for joining us. If there's anything I can ever do for you, just reach out, brother.
100%. Appreciate it, my man.
You guys have been listening to the What Are You Made Of podcast with your boy, Mike C-Roc. Thank you again so much. Please go subscribe on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, and also themikecroc.com. If you go there and subscribe, you can have access to all the episodes in the past, along with a copy of my book that's coming out, Rocket Fuel, not just fuel, Rocket Fuel. It should be coming out by the end of this year. We had a little delay because of COVID, but nonetheless, it's going to come out, and I'm going to get this great content and my story out to you guys to help you with your life. So until next time, guys, be great. And I'm your boy, C-Roc.